Dave DuFour. What is up, man? Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Same old stuff. Watching basketball. Hanging out.
That's what you do.
What about you?
I'm good, bro. And, it's crazy because Curry and Draymond seem to have switched their tone. They're talking about the future all of a sudden. What happened, Dave? What's going on?
Man?
Are they going to be playing 10 years from now? I don't know.
Did they get an ownership stake that we don't know about?
That's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like.
Look, there's two ways to look at this. We could say this is a smokescreen. This is these guys just saying, let us fly under the radar. Or maybe they're really like, hey, we don't have it in us. Maybe Steph's knees are worse than we know. I mean, dealing with tendonitis in your knees, look, man, we know what's up. Dude, when I was at the World Cup, I got jumper's knee. I was, and I was not jumping all that much. It like sneaks up on you when you've got like a bulky knee. And if Steph's knees are an issue, maybe this isn't the season that they're going to go all in. Maybe this is something where they're going to roll this into next year. But, Steph is old.
Yes.
Draymond is kind of old when you consider like the position that he plays, right? Like as his athleticism
he just plays
drops.
older and looks older than even Steph.
I mean, like when he turns it up, though, he's still Draymond.
I mean,
but how many more years does he have of this?
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Like it did make me kind of kick around in our little pre-show before we recorded last night. I was like, I don't know, man. Are these guys going to trade Steph? Like, are we at the point where it's like Steph needs to be freed? But I don't know. Not really. They're not going to trade Steph. But
all right, are they setting
happening?
it? I mean, is this a leverage play? Are they
lowering
setting things
expectations is what it feels like to me, man. Like, hey, you know what? Maybe this isn't our year.
Yeah. Are they setting things up for a Jimmy Butler trade? They don't want to seem desperate?
I don't know, man. I'm bad at fake trades. I can envision what the things will look like. If you want to toss them to me, I can think about it. But
you're talking about the numbers aspect of it. You don't want to get into.
Now, what's funny is I've taught the CBA. That's not the issue. For me, it's more of it's probably the tedious nature of going through the trade machine. But I'm not going to sit. I actually think the Warriors came into the season very strong, and I think they've hit some snags. Right, obviously D'Anthony Melton getting hurt throws a huge wrench in everything. Steph with the knee issue. I mean, this has like become a persistent issue. I think that's a problem. I think that this team is better than it's playing. And I don't know if they can just make a move and fix that because of what they have to give up. And so I go through this trade machine and I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, okay, all right, let's just see. What does it look like if they go get Jimmy Butler? Well, you have to lose Andrew Wiggins.
Yes.
That's a disaster for your team.
Yeah.
Because Wiggins has not been the title winning Wiggins, but he's been pretty good for them.
Yeah.
And that position on the wing, he's a guy who plays every game, which Jimmy Butler does not. He shoots threes. He makes threes. I mean, I just think like Andrew Wiggins for the Warriors is more important than what Jimmy Butler could be. So I don't see them as a Jimmy Butler team. I think I would have loved to have seen them been in on Cam Johnson instead of Dennis Schroeder. I think that would have helped them. But I understand wanting to get Schroeder in there and see what he can do with the ball in his hands because that's what they really need. Now, Kuminga coming around has helped them quite a bit. But I don't know, man. It felt to me like they were trying to showcase Kuminga
100%.
Right, to move him
100%.
rather than, something that was organic. So, I don't know. The whole thing is weird, man. Like, how do you feel about it?
I feel like they have to make a move if they want to win this year. They can't win as is.
Right. Well, definitely not.
Yeah.
But I don't think they can win. Look, man, who can they get? I mean, unless they're going to trade for Kevin Durant. Who can they get?
That?
I would do it in a heartbeat. That would be great for me personally. That's good for business. Please, Warriors, trade for Kevin Durant. But I just, I don't think that there's a move for them to make. I mean, a lot of people love to kick around the idea of LeBron.
How does a realistic trade scenario look for Kevin Durant back to the Warriors?
God, man. I mean, Wiggins got to go. Gary Payton, I think, makes 8. And I mean, you'd have to sweeten it quite a bit, but
I mean, Kuminga would have to be in it.
This could be I don't think that that's a realistic option. Number one,
okay.
I don't think Kevin Durant is on the table. But Kuminga's got to go. Yeah, they've got to get and then picks, and it's got to be a lot. I think that because that's a potential title swinging trade for them.
Oh yeah,
like good grief, man. Put the band back together, but it's not realistic at all. Now, the guy who's interesting to me is Bradley Beal, and even for the Warriors, it's funny because I mean he makes a ton of money. This is the problem, right? Again, you got to give up Wiggins, but man, he would be a guy who would be an interesting player for them if it wasn't for the fact that he makes $50 million, right? He would be an interesting guy to pair with Steph to be able to run second units. His DHO stuff would work great with Draymond and Looney. Like, I mean, this guy, he's a good basketball player who has just been, he was on the Wizards and they were awful.
There's redundancy in skill set with the Suns.
Right.
That's what it really is. Yeah.
And if you look, man, I think his presence hurt Booker quite a bit too, because Booker was trying to fit in, because Booker is that guy, right? And Beal is trying to fit in quite a bit. I think it's not shocking to me that Beal has come off the bench and been so good, right? Like, just go out there. Hey, go out there, you cook, and just do your thing and run the offense. So he's an interesting guy to me. Like, people keep talking about him like he's this like bad player, and he's definitely not. And like the Warriors can't get him. But if I was Detroit, I'd be like, hey, you know what? If y'all are doing a Jimmy Butler trade, let me get some of that Bradley Beal. I'll take a draft pick to take him off your hands.
Wasn't you talking to somebody about Beal to Detroit?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would love to see.
I would love it too, because I think there's nobody who's an ISO scorer like Beal on the Pistons when you have a bunch of those guys on the Suns, and he would just fit so much better with the Cade Cunningham.
And he could play off the ball, off Cade in a way.
I mean, look, we saw Asar Thompson spacing out to the corner. I love Asar Thompson, but that's not most ideal for Cade, and Cade's having a great season now. Imagine he had a lot of shooting around him.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that like Beal is this guy who I understand it's the no trade clause, right? It has put a stink on his contract.
The cards are in my hands, right?
Yeah, which was cool, by the way. Cool. But he's owed $110 million for the next 2 seasons. That's it. It's 2 more years. Like in my opinion, we have now come to the point where I think Beal's contract is just fine if you're a mid-wing team that wants to be better. If Detroit got him, they got a shot at being top 6. Yeah. And that's huge. And, maybe he hamstrings you the next year. But that's it, man. Like, I just don't think that this is a team that's going to be... Like, cap space isn't even all that valuable anyway. The issue is that Beal, that cap number sitting on your books is so scary to these guys. I don't know. I think for Detroit, Beal could make you slightly better than you are, which puts you like in the battle for 6, which is great. Like if you can be in that 6-7 range as Detroit, who hasn't won more than 21 games in 6 years, hasn't won a playoff game in 18 years?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, come on. Be fine. Like this is like the Kings, man. Like I actually think the Kings did the right thing by doubling down on the thing that was okay, because they've been bad for so long. So you can't hit a home run with every move, but man, if they could get in on Beal, I would be into that for Detroit. But the Warriors, man, I just don't. There's not one guy for them to go get. They have too many holes right now.
Yeah, I mean, I heard Zion talk.
So he can play 12 games.
He's actually
he looks great
right now.
No, he looks great. He came back looking lean, man, and I appreciate.
As long as he doesn't miss the Jets.
I appreciate that he's getting the pump before he comes out there too, so you can see the good vein in the shoulder, so everyone knows that he's been in the
wrestling
weight room.
trick, huh?
It is, right? Yeah. I wonder if he's got the cuff in the back too, because that was what we used to do.
It's interesting that Cade and Jalen had great games yesterday, because I remember watching them in summer league, and they were both really great. Cade was obviously a little more NBA ready, and then Jalen Green, you just looked at his ceiling. But why do you feel there's so much skepticism around Jalen Green? He shows flashes of being a great player. He's really young, but everybody seems so skeptical about him. He's part of a winning team. Like, what's the issue?
I think the lack of elite shooting is the number one thing, right? Like, because he's not big, so it's not like he can use his body to create space. But if he was an elite 3-point shooter, everyone feels differently about him because his first step is sick. He's not a black hole offensively. Now, he's not necessarily a direct playmaker for others, but like he gets hockey assists quite often. And then it's the decision making, cutting down on turnovers. It's the regular things that you expect out of a player. But also, he came in so green, in my opinion. You know,
no pun intended.
Literally, yeah. Like, and I just feel like from being a high level decision maker in the NBA is very hard. And it takes guys sometimes 4 or 5 years. I mean, I don't think that's been the issue for Cade, but I do think for Jalen it has been, and also a little bit of opportunity, man. Like Reed Shepherd, excuse me, not Ben Shepherd. Reed Shepherd is dealing with this right now. There's no opportunity for Reed Shepherd, right?
Except in the G League where he dropped 49.
49, right? He's sick, but he's not a good enough player to get space on this roster, right? So you look
coach player fit matters too. I think
100%. I actually think. Look, I think Reed Shepherd's got an opportunity to break in. Like Ime's like wanting to win, so it's not like these guys. I'm sure they get along, but you've got to be able to do certain things to break into this team's rotation, which. Rightfully, look, man, they're having like really like successful season. And when you look at them, I can't tell you some nights who their best player is. That's difficult to do as a coach, like to say, hey, like I think the Denver Nuggets, like that coaching job is an easier coaching job by far, right? With a worse collection of players outside of Jokic, right? It's a much easier one because you have Jokic. These guys have Şengün, who is good, but he's not great. They have Jalen Green, who is decent. He's not even good yet, right? But I think he's on his way there. But this is the big thing about them. Down the stretch of games, when a lot of people like me will check into the Rockets, the decision making is on full blast, and it is bad. And they throw away a lot of possessions. You know, Fred VanVleet. This is an eye test stat for me that I checked finally. After the game last night. I just said, I've been saying for weeks, it feels like Houston's offense down the stretch of games is for Fred VanVleet to catch the ball with 4 seconds left on the clock and fire up a grenade. You know, that guy is third in attempts, less than 4 seconds on the shot clock, and he's shooting like 28% on him. That's not good offense. Now, he hit one against the Grizzlies last night, and that really like gave him the win. But that's not a good way to get your stuff done. So there are nights where you see Şengün operating like from the elbow, and this is where him and Amen Thompson having great chemistry is really fun to watch. But I think ultimately, if they're going to have any success in the playoffs, I do feel like they're probably a first round out in the playoffs. They just don't have the guy, and that matters. Yeah. But if they're going to have success, it's going to be because Jalen Green and Şengün kind of step up and assert themselves. And I think Jalen Green, just with the ball in his hands, he's so dangerous on the wing. Like he's a mismatch. He's hard to guard. And then you have Şengün, who just out of the short roll can do so many things, whether it's that little push shot. My favorite shot that I've seen Şengün hit in the last couple of weeks is that he faked the little push shot, faked the step back, and then stepped through again with another fake, and then just hit the little jumper. And when you have guys that can control their body and their pace that way, it gives you a lot of options. But these guys, those two, Jalen Green and Şengün, are really like, I think that Jalen Green is held back by not being able to play better with Şengün, if that makes sense. So as this season goes on, I just think the better that those two play together, the more we're going to feel comfortable with Jalen Green being good and not just decent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Do you feel like they've had enough of an evaluation window to make a move right now, because they're not going to be able to pay all these guys in the long run?
They should not make. Look. What's the move for them to make? Like to me, when you're Houston, you're sitting pretty right now. You don't have to move anyone. Your books are pretty good. You know, you're in a good spot, but you are not a title contender, and they know that. But I don't think that they're one move away from being, again, it's kind of like the Warriors. Like, if you're not one move away, do you want to push your chips in for Jimmy Butler? Definitely not. Like, if Jimmy Butler was the thing to put you over the top, do it. He's not. He's just not. Yeah. And so that guy is just not out there right now. And I think that for the Rockets, man, when you look at the way that the playoffs have worked out, we still have a long way to go to get there. And we are going to have at least one and probably two major injuries swing everything. So if you're the Rockets and you look at yourself sitting in the 2 seed at the halfway mark, you should feel really good about where you're at. You've been pretty healthy all year. You've found a consistent style to win with, and you're developing internally as the season goes on. this is the sort of this is almost like two timelines to a certain degree because they're actually competing
Shouts to the Warriors
while their young guys are developing. Well, they've got better young guys. This is true.
Spurs got the same thing going too.
Right. Well, this is the thing. When you have high quality young guys, you're like OKC. OKC is both in development mode and championship competition mode, and it just doesn't come around that often.
To be, right?
And I think if you're Houston, you should look at the OKC model and look at the patience. They took their time. You know, if you can go out and get someone to the level of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in a trade, do it. But that guy's not out there. And I even mean, like, if they could get De'Aaron Fox, if you could make a trade and get De'Aaron Fox, do it. De'Aaron Fox is that level of player to me, right? Like, he's a top 12, top 15 guy. If you can get him, go do it. But other than that, Jimmy Butler doesn't move the needle for me at all for this team.
Yeah, we mentioned the Pistons. We mentioned the Rockets. What have you made of the development from the Thompson twins?
You know, it's funny, man. These guys they're a trip. When you watch them back to back, like I did last night, it's pretty fun to watch. Like, Amen is ahead of Asar. And Asar, you know, he's had a rough start to the season with the injuries and stuff. Asar, in my opinion, what if he was like a supercharged Josh Hart? Not great at anything except for motor, you know?
And athleticism.
Effort. Right. But with crazy athleticism and length that Asar has, that guy he's going to be I think he's an NBA role player for 12, 15 years. Amen is interesting because Amen might be a star. What he is able to do right now, like, he's bending the defense without a jump shot. Like, you have to guard him along the baseline. You have to guard him on cuts. Like, he's just whatever Ime is, however he's coaching Amen is just, it's perfect because the guy, like, he doesn't even, like, when he makes mistakes, you understand where it came from, and it doesn't slow him down any. Like, he's constantly running at 100 miles an hour. And I mentioned before, like, the chemistry that he's got with Şengün, man, those lobs, they're throwing lobs to him out of the dunker spot in clutch situations, and the defense has to account for that. So he's providing vertical spacing where he's not spacing the floor with a jump shot.
Right.
And if he could just get a serviceable jumper, like league average from the corners even, and just let him fly when he gets them, that dude is very dangerous. Now, if he ever gets something above the break, which, you know, it's not often a guy really develops that much. He becomes something else, but he's a great play finisher. And then obviously his athleticism and activity on defense is crazy. I mean, he and Tari Eason together are just, I mean, like, I'm a basketball coach, man. Like, I love these guys in particular. These guys that just, you can tell.
You have them in an AAU game. You have them in an AAU game. The score might be 142-10.
Literally, because they want to do full court pressure, full game, and they want to just run. And as a coach, like, you love those guys. I mean, this is another reason why I'm not into a trade for Houston, because they have too many dudes I like, man, and I just don't want to see them.
Well, yeah, I mean, Amen would be untouchable, untradeable.
Oh, 100%. Tari Eason probably too. I just think, like, they have too many guys I like. I mean, look. Think about the
Cam
fact
Whitmore or even Reed Shepherd could be in it, though. And
Cam
I like
is
them a lot.
Good.
Cam would have been – I think Cam in the right situation would have been an all-rookie player.
Oh, 100%. Because he needed touches, man. He needed the ball in his hand. But, you know, like, think about it. We haven't even talked about Jabari Smith.
Yes.
Right? And he was going to be a guy I thought coming in.
I think this is going to be tough for his development being on this team.
100%. And he was a guy I saw as, like, being able to potentially, like, guard Giannis defensively, right? I thought this guy, I was like, he's got all the tools, he's got the length, and he hasn't turned into that level of defender. And then the offensive game, it's just not quite, you know, like, it's not what it needs to be, I think, to thrive down there. But he doesn't create the chaos that these other guys do. So I just think, like, it's funny that he is an afterthought, but he's such a talented young guy. He could be a guy maybe that they wind up moving, you know, and I don't know, but, like, what's his value look like? I just don't know. I think anybody calling him, they're looking for like 3 or 4 different guys. I don't know if it's him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do in the playoffs. So you think first round exit, huh?
I mean, it feels that way. I feel that way about them. I feel that way about Memphis. Memphis has just regular season paper tiger all over them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, quick hitter. I did mention Cade Cunningham. Quick hitter, though. Cade Cunningham or Jalen Brunson? Better basketball player?
Damn. I mean, probably Cade, man, because of the defense.
Yeah, and he's 6'6", and he probably does everything better than Brunson except score.
That's a big part of the game. I mean, it is literally about putting the ball in the hoop. And I would say this. It's closer than any Knicks fan would want to admit.
That's why I'm going to post something about it today, because it's going to get the people riled up. And that's what we do on podcasts.
Not me, man. I'm very lucky that I get to operate in a joyful space, man. You know, like I was having this conversation with somebody the other day because I read this big piece on awful announcing about how negative NBA media is.
Yeah, but I don't think that's negative to say Cade is better than Brunson, even though Knicks fans might take it that way.
Right. No. And I don't even think, look, neither one of us said anything negative in this entire thing, in my opinion.
Right.
Pointing out problems is not inherently negative, but
well, yeah,
you know what I mean.
If you do that on the internet, if you point out a problem, you're a hater, right?
Right.
And then if you compliment somebody, you're glazing. So it's like,
but see, I'm from Virginia, man. I'm not a hater. I'm a lover. That's what we do. And so, for me, like there's a right way and a wrong way to provide criticism, just like in any walk of life, right? Like I try to be respectful of these guys as people, but also I'm also trying to entertain and have fun. And I think that there's a nice and more fun way you could do it. But to the point of this article, it was, the people who cover the league, and we know who they're talking about, the people on TV. They bash the product, the game on the court. I'm willing to admit that this is not the sport of basketball. It is a basketball product. It is a basketball adjacent product. That being said, it is artistry, period, right? Like these guys are some of the most incredible athletes that ever exist, much less that we've watched play this sport. And so there's a thing here where it's like, okay, well, I think we all know that the traveling calls get missed and the moving screens and 3 seconds for the defense. Okay, it changes the sport. But like, why do I want to tell you if you're watching me on TV not to watch me? This is what I can't figure out. Like there's a self-hate and a self-defeating thing. And I think these guys are just burnt out. And this is combo. This is why I always love talking to you about basketball, because it's fun. Yeah. If you weren't having fun, I don't think you'd be doing this. Like I wouldn't be.
Right. I think people are drawn to negativity, though.
The internet is built on negativity.
Yeah.
And we all ostensibly work on the internet now. Like every conversation you have is like, what are your social media metrics look like? What kind of click-throughs?
That's another
sort
thing.
of engagement?
I think like bigger brands and companies care more about what your metrics are than what your content is.
100%, man. Look, they want people to engage with you, period. They don't care if it's negative or positive. And for me, I'm sure it's frustrating for people I work with, because the way I use social media is I'm trying to land some jokes, and maybe I'm going to make some commentary about like, hey, y'all should go outside and touch grass. But I'm not trying to make anybody mad, because where's the fun in that?
Is it more important to be right, or is it more important to be entertaining in our space?
Number one, I think entertaining is actually more important. But the people who are caught up in being right, I just have a problem with that generally. Number one, we're all projecting. Like I'm guessing. Everything I say is an educated guess. Like when I'm saying like the Warriors can't do it, hey, what's up with Steph's knees? I actually don't know. I just know what they've told us. His knees may be way worse. They also might not be hurt at all.
I want you to get back to this, but has their championship window closed? And then get back to it.
Of course, it's over.
Oh, okay. Now go back.
But like
I did that so I could put that in the thumbnail.
There you go.
Go ahead though. See how it all ties together?
But we operate in conjecture, right? But to me, it's like I'd rather be positive in my conjecture than negative. And that doesn't mean look, you can have fun by saying that the Warriors title window is over. Hey, panic, right? We got to hit the panic alarm. Like you can have fun.
Let's think about the future.
Exactly. So where do they go from here? I don't know, man. I've seen a lot of people get angry, like talking about the NBA, and I don't know. The guys on TV just aren't for me. This is why I only watch local broadcasts when I can. The Rockets guys calling the Grizzlies game last night were amazing. they were having as much fun as I was listening to them. They were having that much fun doing the show. And even them, like, they weren't treating the Grizzlies like they were the bad guys, right? Like, it was actually very fun. Obviously Charlotte's home broadcast is fantastic. The Warriors broadcast is really good. Like, there's this thing where, like, everybody wants to be a hater of just, like, I don't know. I think having a home announcer is good. Having a homer announcer is good. Maybe that's the pro wrestling in me. But these guys are kind of leading your fan base. Yeah. It should be positive. It should be kind of joyful, right? Like, you should be celebrating. It's supposed to be fun.
Right.
Like, this is the thing that gets lost with NBA media for me is, like, why'd you guys get into basketball? Not why'd you get into media. You got into basketball because it was fun. The first time you dribbled it, you're like, oh. And if you have any rhythm at all, you're dribbling fast, And next thing you know, like, oh, no, I love this thing. And now, like, look, man, I get paid to watch basketball. I grew up a huge Chicago Bulls fan, but in Virginia. Shout out WGN. And I get paid to sometimes talk about the Bulls. If you would have told me this, 30 years ago or whatever, I would have been like, oh, wow, did I have a Hall of Fame basketball career first? And, none of that happened. But you know what I mean? Like, and so I read this article and I was thinking to myself, man, what the hell is wrong with everybody? I know what it is, man. They don't know what they're watching and they're bored.
All right, so you spend a lot of time on the NBA, but I need you to put your NBA draft cap on for a second. What have you learned about Cooper Flagg? What have you learned about Cooper Flagg this season?
I've seen highlights of Cooper Flagg because I don't have time for the draft because the nightly.
Well, I thought
daily
Cooper. Maybe you tap in for Cooper.
I saw like.
Who does he remind you of, Dave? Who does Cooper Flagg remind you of?
Sean Kemp. Is that weird?
It's a little weird, but I'm not mad at it.
He's just like big. You know what I mean? And I just remember when I like watching Sean Kemp. Like Sean Kemp just felt big when he played. I don't know, man. Like he's like stronger than a lot of the guys that you expect to see as a freshman, right? Like his body is so developed. That reminds me of Tyler Hansbrough, just coming into college and it was like, oh, well, this guy's been eating like just from a trough for his whole life and lifting weights. He kind of reminds me of that.
Did they call him Psycho T?
I think that was a NBA thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I don't know, man. Like the Sean Kemp, I don't know. I just can't get it out of my head. And I have not done any sort of a deep dive or scout on Cooper Flagg. I will just say you can't help but see him because he's out there. Who's that other kid? Was it Ace Bailey? Is that his name?
Yeah, he's
had a big block the other
with
night.
Another top 5 guy named Dylan Harper, Ron Harper's son.
Yeah. Did he have the big block the other night where his hand got over the box? Yeah, I saw that clip, and now that stands out to me.
Yeah. And then the kid the year after might be better than all of them, DeBansa, AJ DeBansa. So we'll see what develops.
I think Jared Weiss wrote a story about him over at the
Yeah. He looks different. All right, so let's finish with the Nuggets. What have you made of Denver Russ on this team? Because he has been a game changer. Russ always gets a lot of criticism, but we have to give him his kudos when he's playing like this.
This has been so much fun to watch because Russell Westbrook has never once cheated any NBA fan out of a nickel. That guy, he has played hard every minute he's been on the court his whole career. And I think like basketball people had a hard time with Russ when he was kind of floundering and bouncing team to team. It's been a hard watch, right?
I mean, he's still bouncing.
And he never stopped playing hard, man. Like this guy just never quit. And so for Jokic to have wanted him and campaigned to get him and to have been right, I think matters, number one, for Russell Westbrook's, maybe even for his legacy. And I hate to be that guy. But number two, like the proof has been on the court and it didn't happen overnight. Like it wasn't like it happened day one. So they clearly just did some work. This has been fun, man. Like he plays hard. He has been able to create stuff where they were going to get nothing through effort. And they just don't have that guy. Like think about the guys that they have. Who would you say is a hustle guy?
Well, Christian Brown.
Yeah. Okay. He's a third-year player, man. Like, you
Yeah.
got to have a veteran who is like, who's the guy that
He definitely injects energy into the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that, when you listen to Michael Malone talk about him in the post-game and stuff, and it's just glowing. Again, Russ seems like a guy, at least in theory, maybe not in practice, I don't know, maybe now, who, as a coach, you probably love to coach because you never have to coach him to play hard. You just had to coach him to make good decisions. And with Jokic, I think he respects Jokic so much that it's just very easy to kind of blend in, and it's working out perfectly, man. We've always thought about this with Russ, or at least me and the people I talk about basketball with all the time. If Russ had ever learned to play off the ball when he was playing with Durant, they would have been unstoppable. But it was always your turn, my turn. And so I wonder if Russ doesn't think about that now in the situation he's in and say, damn, like, man, what could my career
at this
been?
point?
Well, right. But imagine if he had done it when he was younger and better.
Right.
Man.
Right. I mean, look, because Harden could handle the ball. KD obviously could play point forward at times like we've seen with the Nets. So, yeah, that would have been really dangerous.
Yeah, because he couldn't really shoot the three either, right? Like, you think about the ways in which having Russell Westbrook as the primary ball handler all the time kills some of the spacing for your offense. So I think about that sometimes with him. Like, when I'm watching him play with Jokic, man, like, if he could have just played off Durant this way, ooh, it would have been... they could have been running some of this Princeton stuff. It would have been fun.
Do the Nuggets have a trade for Durant? Maybe bring him back with Russ?
I don't think so, man. If the Nuggets make a trade, they have to give up Michael Porter Jr. They have to give up Michael Porter Jr. And I don't see how they do it.
That has made no sense to me from the beginning of that. I mean, he fits perfectly with that team, and they have nobody else like him. Like movement shooting, Yeah,
and he's been good, by the way, like on both ends. I just think like they can't get rid of him. Yeah. It's just,
Dave, thanks for
Beal would also be, by the way, Beal would be good with Jokic. Really good with Jokic.
I mean, Beal would be good on a lot of teams.
I know.
When there's just not two other guys who are elite at ISO scoring and need the basketball.
$110 million for the next 2 years.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't you give me one trade prediction before we leave? What do you think?
Oh, I think Jimmy Butler's going to get traded.
So it's only the Suns or the Warriors, right, in the mix?
I guess. I don't know. I think it's going to be the Suns, man. Look, I think at this point, I'm not to sound too cynical about it, but like when the news starts coming out that Phoenix is the only team that has a contract ready for him to sign an extension, the 2 years, whatever, I feel like it's going to happen. And then it's just a matter of they just got to get Bradley Beal to buy in.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Jimmy Butler's going to Phoenix. That's how I feel.
Okay. I did want to actually add one more thing. Is OKC versus Cleveland good for the NBA, and how likely is it to happen?
Oh, I think it's awesome for the NBA. Anybody who thinks otherwise has some kind of a coastal bias. And, I mean, it's just like, we're going to get to part 2 later on this week. But last week, man, that was the game of the year. And we got to build it up like a big game, which we usually don't. And I think about, like the storyline of the season. And remember, we're going to have a different champ. Like the Celtics are not going to do this. We are in the parity age. I think they have too many problems. Yeah, I just don't think they're going to be able to pull it off again. It takes a special run to make it happen. You have to have so much luck. My theory is that my theory is that continuity matters more than talent than ever before, and also the average NBA player is so much closer to the star, so the best players aren't making as much of an impact as they used to when it comes to like winning it all. Yeah, I've got a bigger kind of theory about it, and like we're almost at a flat talent curve. Right. Yeah,
it's really interesting.
Yeah,
like many players could sneak into an all-star game that it just gives you more parity by default.
Exactly, and this is where Wembanyama is going to be just such an absolute freak, because his size, it's something that is not you can't repeat it. This is why Steph Curry created an evolution in the sport in a way that Shaquille O'Neal could not, and they both had an equal effect on the gravity of their teams. But Steph was more repeatable because you could be 6 foot, you could be 6'5", you could be 6'10", and you could shoot like that. You can't be as big as Shaq.
Right.
And so I think that like Wemby is kind of like that, right? You can't be 7'5", but all of the skills, like that's where it is. It's everyone's skill level is now up here. Wemby is definitely in the next tier, but he's also 7'5", which is the major.
When does he become the best player in the league? How many years?
God, man, he might be right now. Like I've kind of kicked this idea. I did Real GM Radio, and I kind of floated that idea. I mean, it's Jokic until it's not. But Jokic will relinquish that to Wembanyama at some point. I would love to say like he needs to win games for me to feel like he's the best player in the league, but not really. Because like part of it is he's 7'5" and still has this level of talent and skill. So yeah, it's only a matter of time. Like it could be like I could be in August and really like be bold about it.
My producer content hat loved that take. That was awesome.
I mean, again, and I'm telling you, man, it's an educated guess because who knows who's the best is. But it's I would say he is closer to the best than he is to 7th best in the world, and he's just going up. I mean, some of the stuff that he does every single night, it's what did Wemby do? What did Wemby do? And
is it crazy that it feels like to me that it's not getting as much attention as it should? Does that sound crazy?
It doesn't sound crazy. Number one, there's a lot of stuff happening every night. But number two, it's becoming old hat, man. The guy got 8 blocks in a game the other night. It was like he tied like Hakeem Olajuwon, Dikembe Mutombo, or whatever for the most number of games with 8 blocks. And it was like he's played 102 games.
Right.
Like he's going to rewrite the record book in a way that I think that like people maybe be okay with changing from an 82 game season to a 59 or whatever game season because like he's going to change the record book so much that it won't matter.
Wow.
Like there's just no way he doesn't set every single record that like as long as he's healthy, right? Like he's gonna be the blocks guy. He may be the points guy. Like if he can play, that's a longevity game.
If he stays healthy, there's no way he doesn't win multiple championships, right?
Yeah, I don't see how.
Yeah.
I mean, he is just. I mean, he has the value of 2 players on defense.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
he changes the geometry of the court on defense.
It's nuts.
Yeah. Dave, great stuff. You're always welcome back on the show. Where can we find you? I know we can find you daily. Dave DuFour.
We got the NBA Daily at The Athletic, New York Times. You can find that wherever you listen to podcasts. I will say it is fun. We have fun making the show, and I hear that it's fun to listen to, even if you don't make it.
I listen.
And what we're trying to do, man, is I just want to give you the headlines and talk about the games every day and in a fun and joyful way, if I can, right? So it's been really cool to do that. And man, working with S and Zena has been so much fun. So if you guys want to check that out, that'd be awesome.
Check that out for sure. Where can we find you on social media, Dave?
Blue Sky. Okay. I don't even know what the handle is. I don't know.
No
man.
Instagram
I've given up.
You? No Instagram.
I would say this. I have an Instagram, but it's if you guys want to see me like post crazy workout stuff or rock climbing.
Okay.
There's no basketball there. I think social media is overall like not much fun. So yeah. Instagram is more fun than others. I think
from my perspective, you have to produce a lot more than you consume to get the most out of it.
Oh, it's got to be one direction, right? And the thing is, so I switched over to Blue Sky like a lot of people, and purposefully trying to not grow it because I use social media, like I use Twitter mostly as like a joke lab. And I know if people like, oh, is this a good joke I can use on my podcast? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not really
you're both on X and Blue Sky.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we could find you everywhere. We could find you podcasting as always. And Dave, thanks for taking the time, bro.
Appreciate you, man.
Anytime.